Okay, so we know this is the last episode, but where are we actually in this whole situation? That's what my feelings are right now. Where are we actually? Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is the final episode of the first season, basically, is what this has turned out to be, of Interview with the Vampire. And I've been just following along and I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. But really, where are we actually? Where are we? Because we are really nowhere in this story. Um when I think about the actual movie, what are we? Less than halfway through? So I don't know. I'm feeling a little irritated, but it's okay. It's all right. Um, we will go through this and then I'll tell you what my true feelings are about where we actually are. Okay. But here we go. This is episode 7, which is the final episode of season 1, and it's called The Thing Lay Still. Okay. Right away, we have this bright idea of how we are going to kill Lestat. But how do we do it? So Claudia's running around trying to figure out, well, how do you kill an old vampire? It's only a few things you can do: starvation, drink the blood of the dead, decapitation, or fire. Now, first of all, neither one of them is going to be able to decapitate Lestat. The whole fire thing, really, how's that going to go on? It just, first of all, he's too powerful. He's too skilled. It just, this is going to be an issue trying to pull this off. So Claudia, she's clever, baby. So Claudia, she took a go at it. Claudia got this man to come in. Remember, they were being attacked. They had little attacks that had to do with like voodoo and stuff like that. So there's this man comes in and she's thinking, Lestat is thinking, the man comes in and he's like offering some information. And then he basically is kind of like, he just came in like a lamb, and Lestat ended up going ahead and feeding on him. And that was basically set up by Claudia. It was set up by Claudia. It was an act of getting him to drink the blood of the dead, because that just seemed like the most effective and the easiest one to pull off, because it just took you to be clever to do it. And it was very clever. But when, he went to drinking a man's blood, he was like, he was sitting here and he has blood cancer. So it was like, the blood child, it was blood. The blood wasn't any good, but it didn't work. He's too old. So that didn't work. That didn't work. At that point, he said, they're literally trying to get us. And Lestat decided that they all needed to move away from New Orleans. He didn't even he didn't lead on that he thought it was Claudia. He just basically was pissed. He was like, we need to leave here. They're trying to get us, and it's just time to go. That's all. It's time to move on. He understands how this things go. So that was that. Claudia gets this whole plan going about how to take Lestat out, but she would not share it with Louie. She said, mm-mm. She said, I'm playing nice with him. She started playing nice with Lestat, and she knew that Louie can't do it. Louie just cannot do it because Louie actually is attached. There's a blood bond, and he actually is in love. He's in love with Lestat. So she's like, I'll just handle it, but no, I ain't telling you what I'm doing. Just know I'm gonna kill him. So they ended up going to Tom Anderson. They wanted to throw a Mardi Gras ball, okay? And Lestat wants to be the king of the ball. And they bribed old Tom Anderson with a boat. And he ain't nothing but about money and power. So he actually went for it. He went for it. And they actually were speaking, and he was talking about how Lestat and Louie never age. And he gonna say, so really, where do you find the devil? And what are his terms? Because that's what they people think that they actually worship the devil. They actually don't believe that they're vampires. They believe that they are devil worshippers. So I'm like, oh my God, child. Anyway, what they ended up doing, that's the thing. That's part of the thing to get these people to come to the party. It's this whole folks who are gluttonous and eccentric. They are the people who bought tickets to come to this party. It's the exclusive party. It is very much they're pumping this whole fountain of youth thing. We got this fountain of youth thing going on, blah 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 blah. And again, gluttonous and eccentric. They were like all down for it. Made all this money and everything. It's money for the move. It's money for, it just was a whole big business proposition. And they rubbing elbows with old nasty Tom Anderson. Okay. And he's a snake. Anyway, so what they said they would do, they were going to starve themselves to prepare for the feast. Because what they were going to do is really like go out with a bang. They're going to just kill up everybody. Okay. Um, what it actually ends up is going to be a distraction. It's going to be a distraction. The victims will all be poisoned, but appear to be drunk. Okay, so this is what that whole thing was going to be able to get Lestat. Okay, so everybody would be poisoned, and they would just appear to be drunk, and then he would feast on them, and then that's the thing. The blood is no good, and eating all them people, child, sucking it all down in a feast and overindulging would take him out. I said, okay, all right, cool. So as the party gets started, we're going through the party and they're picking out the slick slide and the wicked baby, which the room was full with them. But you got to get something that Lestat likes. There was these twins, baby. The twins were fine, honey. And he was like, I want both of them, child. So it kind of just like was this whole thing. They got this whole little elite group of people, and they got another elite group of people from within the group. That's all going to come down. It's like 7 or 8 of them that were going to come down. They would give them an orchid and say, "You've been chosen." This, that, thing, and the other. So, and they were some of the nastiest, vilest, gluttonous people. Anyway, so the last dance before the feast ended up being a whole spectacle. Child, why did Louie and Lestat got to dancing? I said, no, y'all are not. No, you two are not promenading, honey, in front of these people. And everybody was just looking like, I know these two men are not pulling this stuff, baby. And then they kissed. Baby, when I tell you, the folks were like, girl, what is really going on? The thing was, it was what it was. It just shut. The party was just out there. It was like a all out. I mean, all they had to do is start having an orgy. And if they could really have filmed this the way that they really meant it, there probably was an orgy going on. It was some of everything. It was so very Sodom and Gomorrah. It was so very Caligula. It was very that. Okay. Louis, just like Claudia knew, they got caught up in the midst of the dance. He done fell under Lestat's little spell as usual. And Claudia came and broke in on the dance. A mess. And Didn't Louis, he tried to talk Claudia out of going through with everything. She's like, it's too late. It is too late. It is done. It's done. So here they go ahead and they get everything together. And honey, the twins are supposed to be the death blow, honey. So they go ahead and Louis goes ahead and drinks from the one twin and comes in, but that's just to like throw him off. So he'll go ahead and drain the other twin. And he's like, oh no. He's like, yeah. And, Louis supposed to not have drank enough to hurt him. You know what I mean? He kind of just like, he really just killed him and bled him out. He didn't really drink a child. And here it was. Lestat goes over and he gets the other one. He's going to say, something tastes funny about that blood. He said, something's funny about it. And he said, okay. But then he ended up having this whole back and forth conversation with Tom Anderson, honey. And that's the one he went and got Tom Anderson, baby, and went to try to jack Tom Anderson up, honey. Child. And the thing was, he actually knew about the twins. He knew about the twins. And there was, when they were having this whole back and forth, he had the whole thing, him and Tom Anderson. He killed Tom Anderson before he came up to the room. Then he gets there with the twins. Like I said, one of the twins was knocked down. And then he ends up, he fed off the other twin. And that was supposed to be it for him, right? And he said something tastes funny about the blood. And he started kind of like saying, I don't know about all this. This thing and that and the other. Everything's kind of like stops, and you see this person coming in this suit. And you're like, what is going on with that? And the person comes, and everything's going on at this point. They done made mayhem. They done killed up everybody in the party, and it was a mess. It was a whole massacre. Get up to the room, honey. It is Antoinette. It is Antoinette. I said, oh, okay. So they get to having this little conversation back and forth. Antoinette's like, yeah, whatever, it is what it is. And that's when Louis is sitting there and Claudia's talking, y'all are caught. This, that, and the other. Here it is. I can't hear you all. I can't hear you all. But Antoinette could actually hear them. And she had been literally eavesdropping on them all this time. So she supposedly knew the whole plan. But the tea was, yeah, she had been eavesdropping on them, but Claudia knew it. Claudia knew it all the time. Baby, when I tell you, they took and Louie and Claudia burned Antoinette up. And they were sitting there because Lestat started getting very sick. And they were like, wait, why is he getting all sick? And that's when Claudia told her, baby, I knew she was listening. I knew she was eavesdropping and all of that, and said, you thought that the twins were the death blow, but that's what I wanted Antoinette to hear. I didn't share it with Louie because I didn't trust Louie to actually keep everything together either. And the death blow was actually Tom Anderson. He knew Tom Anderson had actually insulted Lestat. So he knew that he was going to really drain him because he had a vendetta and he meant to jack him up. So he was actually the death blow, not the twins. I said, oh, she's so slick, honey. She's just like him. But baby, he laid over there. Lestat was over there. He died. Was what it was. Here the thing was, Louie told her, we can't do that. We can't burn him. We just can't do it. He's dead. I just can't do that. Now that's just really taking it too far. So he's dead or whatever. Put him into a coffin and sent his body. They set his body out like trash. He's basically put into a box and set out like trash. And they took him on out to the, he went to like out where they throw the trash at. So that was that. And that's where everything kind of ended. And we go back into the real time. Okay. In real time, Daniel calls Louie out on his bullshit. And they get to going back and forth. And I'm like, wait a minute, honey. And that Daniel told me, said, so you're trying to color code this story for me, but you did it again. You betrayed Claudia yet again. And he's like, what? He said, yeah, you did. You chose him over her. You're not slick. You knew exactly what you was doing. You didn't have the balls. And you given the battered woman syndrome for the most part. You couldn't do it. You couldn't kill Lestat. You couldn't do it. You knew for a fact if you send his body down there, he wasn't completely dead. He was just pretty much incapacitated for a while. And you knew if you sent him down to the dump, there were enough rats for him to feed off of to actually get himself powered back up and be able to walk out of there. And you knew it, but you betrayed her and you thought you all would just get away, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But you didn't, you couldn't kill him. You just couldn't do it. And baby, he got telling him about how he betrayed. Honey, Louie was getting mad, but because Louie don't like to be called out. But everything that Daniel was saying was true. Next thing you know, we look over, baby, and Rashid gets to levitating. I said, oh no, honey. Get to levitating. And he said, you see, you do this. You get to where you're doing too much. You're saying too much, and then you won't stop. Because he was trying to make him stop. And he said, what do you mean? He said, oh, you don't remember. He said, see, it's different this time. This time, I won't save your life. You don't remember. And Rashid's looking at him, and he says, wait a minute, but I saw you in the sun. He said, yeah, once you're so old, the sun has no more effects. And he's over there. And by this time, Louie then got himself together because Louie was mad, baby. He was ready to jack Daniel up. He got himself together, and then Rashid comes back down, and they're standing there, and he says, listen, Daniel, I would like to introduce you to the love of my life, vampire. Introducing you to the vampire, Armand. And Child Daniel's just standing there looking all dumbfounded, and I was looking dumbfounded too. I said, okay, so Rashid, all this time, is actually Armand. He is Armand. Armand is the vampire who was actually played by Antonio Banderas in the original movie, who when Claudia, you all remember when Claudia and Louie escaped from Lestat and went on over to Europe, he fell in love with Armand. Remember, he had the dark, long hair with the ponytail, the low ponytail. That's the part that Rashid is actually playing, which is actually the man he fell in love with, who he loved even more than Lestat. But listen, because Armand actually loved him. Armand actually loved him. And if you remember in the movie, Armand is who killed Claudia. Armand and his people, they killed Claudia and her lady. So I don't know. I said, okay, so here we are. This is it. This is where the series ends right now for season 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to get on out of here. We're going to talk for a couple of minutes about how I actually feel about the series itself. This last episode, I have to be honest with you all, turned my stomach. It turned my stomach because I feel like this was a cop out. This whole thing is a cop out. This whole thing feels like, to me, a writer who didn't have the balls to stand on their own story. So what they did was they wrapped this up and they made it real close to the regular Interview with the Vampire, but this is really its own story. But I just feel like Anne Rice and her legacy was used to garner the views, because if you slap Anne's name on it and you make it like you're redoing something of hers that already works, you knew you would get the views. It feels like a cop out to me. It feels like you wrote a story, which was a damn good story, but you just took and made more similarities and slapped names that we already knew onto the script. And this is how you're getting your story out, because this is not the true Interview with the Vampire story. This is not a remake. This is you retelling a story your own way, which it's not bad. It really is good. It really is a good story. But I would have more respect for it if you just did like it what it was. You created a story, create your own names. Don't try to lean over onto what Anne Rice did. Just tell your story. Tell your story. I feel like we were bamboozled into someone else's story, but it feels like plagiarism to me. It really does. And I hate to use that word, but that's how it feels. This is not the Interview with the Vampire story. It feels like a plagiaristic version of a story similar. That's what it feels like. So again, I'm going to drop it because I can't say that I hate it because it's not good. I can't say that, but I just feel like it was a cop out. I feel like you didn't have the balls to try to stand on your own, and you had access. So whoever, you just went and you used Anne Rice's legacy and her clients, her fans, and you played in our face. That's how I feel. I'm sorry, guys, but that is how I feel about this whole thing. So you all tell me what you all think. Listen, I'm not going anywhere. It is what it is, because you can't get around the fact that it was good storytelling. It's a good story, but I just don't appreciate that you ripped off Anne Rice's story to tell a story that you wrote. You wrote a damn good story, and you should have had the balls to stand on your own story. That's just the writer in me. But that's how I feel. That's what I'm walking away with from season 1 of this Interview with the Vampire. Acted well, beautiful actors, great casting, the sets, everything is on point. I just wish you had the balls to stand on your own. That's all. That's all I got. All right, you all tell me what you all think. I'm good with whether you like what I said, don't like what I said, agree or don't agree. I really want to know. I want to know, is there anybody who feels like I feel? I really do I feel cheated. I feel cheated and I feel used. I feel like you used us. And all you had to do is present yourself to us. And I would have loved it anyway, because the damn story is good. But I just think you copped out. I think it was a punk move. That's my feelings. Y'all tell me what y'all think, and I'll see you all soon. Later. That's it for Interview with the Vampire AMC version. Interview with the Vampire Child, the ripoff job.